New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert over here.
Reverend Z right here.
And this is New Thought Today, August 17th, 2021, our weekly series where we come to you every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time to look at the state of the New Thought philosophy, at least as far as we could, our perception of it, and explore how you can be using this mighty and powerful philosophy to create the life you truly desire. We were off last week and ran a replay last week, so thank you so much for checking that out and adding up on our view total on that video. We appreciate that. And we're back this week. So Z, good to be with you again, sir.
Yes, sir. Good to be here as we deal with thoughts, feelings, and emotions.
Yes, exactly. So folks, if you haven't been following along, if today's your first day with us, we've got a great back catalog of exploration. And over the last couple months or so, we have been exploring what is the original home study extension course for the science of mind, as created by Dr. Ernest Holmes way back when. You can pick these up as reprints through the Science of Mind archives. We'll make sure we leave some links in the show notes for you on that. So if you are following along, you happen to have these books. We've moved up till now. We've been in volume 1. We're moving into volume 2 with today's program. So if you're following along and you have those books, we're in volume 2, page 11. About halfway down the page, there's a heading, Thoughts, Feelings, and Emotions. And that's we wanted to explore this topic today because, well, I don't know about you, Z, but when I first got into this philosophy, this was one of those things that was like, whoa, wait a minute. You mean that's not a feeling? That's an emotion. What is this? And what is that? And I'm really, over the years, I've seen so many people get tripped up on this topic. So I'm going to let you get us started.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think given all the stuff that we're faced with today, I'm sure everyone are having some serious thoughts, feelings, and emotions about all the stuff that's going on around us. And so, one thing he says here right at the beginning, which I think really sets the stage for it, he says, feeling is a fundamental essence of the universe. It is part of the nature of reality, right? He says our emotions are this original feeling flowing through us, right? So when we look at these thoughts, feelings, and emotions, first we have a thought. Based on that thought, we know that every thought creates an electromagnetic chemical response in the body, and we get a feeling. Somehow, through life experience, we associate that feeling with something, right? And based on that, we have an emotion, which is an outpicturing of what we have assigned to that feeling, if you will. Right. So, for example, right, I may feel sad, and because of that, I could be feeling sad because I'm feeling guilty or something, or shame. And as a result, my behavior as a result of that could be, I can be distant from people, right? Or I could be lash out at somebody. So there's this wheel, if you will, this triangle between thought, feelings, emotions, and I'm going to make it a square and just throw in their behavior. That what at the root of what we teach in this philosophy, religious science of mind, is that by changing our thoughts, we can change everything else, because it would change how we feel, it would change how we act, and it will change our behavior. And that is like the the essence of religious science / science of mind that we must have a great understanding of to make this thing work.
Yes, absolutely. So let's recap that real quick, folks, right? Our thoughts create a feeling experience, a feeling tone. That feeling tone leads us to an emotional expression. Now, we might feel the emotion inside, or we sense that, right? You can catch the word, the languaging. We say we feel an emotion. The feeling leads us to the expression of an emotion. And that emotion may take us down a road of joy and glee, and may take someone else down the same road of pain and sorrow and suffering. I like to think of this piece as from the perspective of, I don't know if you have any tattoos, Z, I don't. Now, I'm not a big guy on needles. So for me, if I start thinking about a needle, I have a feeling. My body will start to feel like, oh, wait a minute. And then I have an emotional experience with that. For those that don't have that experience, they can sit and get a tattoo all day long. They could sit in that chair probably for a week and have all kinds of art done to their body. I wouldn't last a minute. Our feelings lead us to an emotional experience. Now, here's the fun part for me. And as you were saying, we got to close that box, as it were, complete that circle. From that experience, from that emotional expression, now I'm creating opportunity. Because I'm creating an opportunity to look at my own life, look at, hey, wow, that really pushed my button, didn't it there, or, oh, wow, I really felt a very palpable sense of fear when that happened. And it helps us to inform our decisions and provides new opportunities.
Yeah. And the interesting part about this is that these associations and things can be conscious or unconscious. Right. And so we have this, we find ourselves in a situation, we have a feeling because of that. And depends on how we handle it, it could be conscious or unconscious. And so now we find ourselves sometimes having a feeling and acting out in a certain way, and we don't even know why. We can't attach it to anything. We can't get our heads around it, which means either we have suppressed it potentially, or it's something that we've done subconsciously, and now we're kind of like a robot. We're in a rote way of looking at it, in a rote way of going about it, and that's how we deal with it. And that creates an issue.
That can definitely create an issue. Yeah, it's this is great. On page 11, in that thoughts, feelings, and emotions section, paragraph 3 in that section, Ernest Holmes writes that in psychiatry and psychosomatic medicine, it is believed that there is a definite, fundamental, irrepressible emotion or feeling back of everything. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong part. There is an emotional craving for self-expression back of everything. And when it is repressed, it does lead to trouble, and pretty serious trouble.
Yeah.
Perhaps the largest percentage of all the troubles. So our very nature is to be in this creative process. So if what's going on in our lives is, and we're holding that back, or we're feeling repressed about that, which happens through my perspective, the negative attitude towards our feelings. If we have a negative attitude towards what we are feeling, we're going to express that through negative emotions, and that's going to hold us back from this sense of creativity, of contributing, of fulfilling our creative nature. I know that's created problems in my life, see?
Yeah, because I'm just sitting here rattling through my brain trying to think about different feelings and how they get extended to emotions, and then what kind of behavior that may happen, and know that there's a thought. So let's just take joyful, right? So I have this thought about something that makes me feel joyful, right? So I have this feeling of being joyful. As a result of that, I may feel excited, or I may feel energetic, or creative, right? which now will lead to me either being daring, I'm gonna, take on something new, or I might be stimulated to do something, or I may become more optimistic or playful. And then as a result, my behavior is going to be different than if I was mad, right?
Right.
Which will make me, if I'm mad, I may become more critical or more skeptical or jealous or frustrated. And so we have to begin to look at these different connections. And sometimes, let's be honest, they're very subtle, right? Because they are both things that happen in the brain. And so, whether it's almost like which came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first? Did the feeling come first and then the emotion, or the emotion and the feeling? Or now, and if we throw the thought in, now we got a whole triangle of unraveling that we need to do. And so at that point, we have to begin to kind of dissect this and look at for yourself, because the thought that makes me upset may not make Robert upset.
Exactly. That's our spiral. You hear us folks on this program all the time talking about the spiral of becoming and living on this spiral. And this is part of it, because I can allow this to be a self-feeding cycle, as Z is talking about. As you're sharing, I'm reminded. Now, I know, Z, you play what some people call ball golf, and I call what some people call disc golf.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sometimes animosity and no love lost between the two communities sometimes, and all of it's because of miscommunication, right?
Mm-hmm.
My point in this is there's a great example here, because if you've ever played any type of outdoor activity or sport, you've probably been out on the course with somebody that's just having a bad day. And that one mistake leads to another mistake, and one hurried shot leads to another hurried shot, and another slight, and we start to, and man, I do it, right? And I start to let my emotions get the better of me. We let our behaviors, we let the expression of what we're feeling get the better of me. I might be feeling frustration. I might be feeling anger because I really didn't want to shoot golf today and I let this guy talk me into it. I might be feeling all range of things, but it is my emotions that are out picturing and therefore affecting my performance.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our self-feeding cycle. And I emote a little stronger, and I let a swear word slip on the course where I shouldn't, or I take my club and I slam it into the tree because it's just not working the way I want it to. Yep. I let these behaviors, then those take on a life of their own, and now we're going to use those to create a new belief about ourselves.
Right, and I think a good example of that. I grew up in Florida where it rained darn near every day. And sometimes we just go play in the rain, right? And then there were other people who may not have had that experience of playing in the rain or an abundance of rain around them. So they are not as comfortable. So two people can be standing in the rain. One person can say, ah, and the other person can say, whatever you want to put behind that. One person has no problem with the rain, right? The other person has a big problem with the rain. And so and it's a thought. It originated from a thought. I believe that for me to go and play in the rain, the thought was, well, either I go in the house. Now, if it's lightning, of course, you go in the house. But if it's just raining, you either go in the house and be by yourself, or you just continue playing football in the rain or running a race in the rain or whatever we were doing.
Yep. Long time ago, I was introduced to a story of a young woman that she and I don't know how true this ever really was, but she would She would not dry her hair before leaving the house for school. She would take her shower, she'd get everything ready, she'd leave her hair wet. But she lived in a city where it was cold, and she would and her hair would freeze every day going to school. And she'd get to school and her hair would start to melt, and she'd dry it off at school. And she had a reason for this in her belief system. And one day somebody said, "My dear child, don't you know that you will catch a cold doing that?" And the girl said, "Why, no, I had never considered that." And the next day she got up and she did the same thing as always. And she came to school and her hair got wet. And by the end of the day, she had a cold because she had never considered that she would get a cold from it. Now the seed was planted. The idea is in her brain that this is possible, and it can, and now it happens. I've had similar experiences in my own life, right? Where I just didn't perceive that this was even conceivable. And therefore it never happened. Even though it really ought to have, even though I may have broken the laws of physics a couple times using this philosophy in that way. So really, right, we've always got to be circling back around to every thought has this chain reaction that's going to bring me to a greater experience of my own life and how to create the life I truly desire.
Right. Yeah, and see, I love here on page, I think it's page 12, the second paragraph here. He says, well, not actually the third paragraph. He says, if we can accept the proposition that feelings and emotions are certain ways of thinking, and actually reduce them to thoughts or to mind in action, then we can see how it is the thought can change them. So it's about the context and the content of what we're feeling or thinking or emoting. What is the impetus, if you will? What is the thought, the idea that is causing that? Right? Someone who grows up in a dysfunctional household, whatever that may be defined as, right? As a result of that, they have certain ideas or additional thoughts about what love is and how it's expressed, or those types of interactions can be very different based on a thought that's been cultivated.
Yes. Our learned experiences, right? We are trained these things from a very, very early age. And we can look at this, if you think of a child, of an infant, oftentimes they'll have an experience where I can remember one with my kids, just pop it like a balloon and bouncing it off their nose. And the first time they don't know what, they have this input, but they don't know what to make of it.
Right.
Now they've had a feeling, right? There is something. They know that something hit them. They know, but they're not sure. Should I be afraid of this? Should I find this funny? Did this hurt? Did this not really hurt? Until they see our input. And if we are, that was fun, wasn't it? If we're going, oh my God.
Yes.
Our behaviors will influence the belief systems of those around us.
Yeah.
And that's truly influence their feeling tone.
And that's a perfect example, right? Because I've seen these, and I'm sure most of us may have seen these little clips on YouTube or whatever, Instagram, where a kid is there and, you take a balloon and bump it up against the head of the kid just busts out laughing. Oh my God. It's just hilarious. They can't stop laughing. And then there's another one where someone hits the kid with the balloon and he just busts out crying. Yeah. Now the same event has just happened, but their thought or idea of what just happened, and that you've seen those where they've been hit with the balloon, let's say, and for a few seconds they sit there, they don't know what to do. They're just like in shock almost, or trying to interpret. And then when an adult or someone projects a feeling or projects an emotion as a result of that, now we get a response from the kid.
Right.
And so where are we doing that in our life? Where have we begin or taken it to a next step where we begin to act in a way or express feelings or emotions, and chicken or the egg, based on what we think someone else is saying, feeling, or doing in response to it?
Right. Anybody that's been in a relationship, you've been here, right?
Now you had to go there, didn't you?
Well, it's the perfect experience, right? We know that things get misinterpreted, misperceived. Oh, I thought you meant this. Oh, when that happened, this is what I felt. And again, one of the really easy ways to, and this is why dating can be so much fun. Movies are a great example of how to do that, of how to learn this about each other. Go see a movie with a friend, because it's a very low emotional investment. If you don't like the movie, okay, I'm not going to hold it against you, but you get to explore what the movie elicited, what it created within you, because that's what movies do, right? That's what it's there to do, is to elicit within you thoughts, feelings, and thereby an emotional response.
Yeah.
Marketers do this trying to get us to buy more popcorn and Pepsi, but
Yeah, and so when we look at this in the context of a spiritual life, and we talk about thoughts become things, we can begin to see very clearly now that we have these thoughts that are creating a feeling. And at the very first time that happened, it's just that. It's just a feeling, right? But then I have to begin to associate that with something or add some meaning to that. And then we go down this track, right? And so that's when that thought begins to become a thing. I have a thought. I have a feeling as a result of that thought, because we know scientifically, when we have a thought, there is a reaction in our brain. And the very first time that happened, there's very little, I would say, associating it with something else. But then the outside world, our parents, our friends, or what we see on TV or whatever, or in real life, we begin to associate a meaning with that.
Right.
Once we do that, the experience that we have begins to create and cultivate emotions and behaviors.
Yep.
And if I want to unwind that, if I don't like the behavior that happens when I have that thought, then I got to go back to the cause, which is the thought, and either re-articulate a feeling by it or begin to reassociate that feeling with something else.
Yep. And to me, this has always been the great promise of this philosophy of the science of mind, is that I can control the conditions of my life through the power of this mind. So anytime I find a condition in my life that I don't like, something's not working, something's not happening the way, right? And I'll use probably one of the biggest ones in my life, and that was tobacco and cigarette smoking.
Right.
And I smoked for a long, long time, and I had a lot of mental constructs around why I couldn't quit, and I like to convince myself of this. But the truth is, once I put my mind to it, once I got determined and committed that this is a condition I no longer want in my life, I was able to real easily unravel the belief system that held that feeling in place. So when Ernest Holmes, and when you hear people say, change your thinking, change your life, it's not just some woo-woo, stuff that's going on. that's how it really works. I
Mm-hmm.
refocus my thought pattern, and I've said this earlier, is my predominant thought pattern one of lack and separation and suffering, or one of plenty and connection and good and evolution? And as long as I keep believing in the good, moving towards the good, believing that we're moving in that direction, then the feeling tone has to follow that. That creates a whole new emotional life and a whole new sense of the emotional body.
Right.
We talk about spiritual body, physical body, emotional body, pain bodies. We're strengthening our emotional body by strengthening what we believe.
Yes. Yes. And you know, Pence Mumford is a metaphysical author, and there's a little synopsis of something that he said, that they said thoughts become things when they are given substance with feelings. Thoughts are the DNA of the universe. They contain the information that gives form to our physical life experience. Without feelings or substance, we would not be able to perceive the thought forms in our mind. Now that takes a bit to get your head around. But basically what they're saying is, because thoughts are associated with feelings, and feelings is how we begin to interpret the world. If we don't have this, we're in truly no man's land, right? We're just wandering around aimlessly. So once we begin to have these feelings, then we can begin to navigate the world, and based on this perception, now we can think of ways to either continue that experience or change that experience if we don't like it.
Right. I love this, because how many times in our lives do we look at somebody and say, "Hey, what are you thinking for dinner?"
Right.
And the response is, "Well, I'm feeling like Mexican," or "Well, I'm
Right.
feeling like Italian," or "I'm feeling like maybe a cheesesteak or a piece of pizza." Or see, this is so natural. We do it, and oftentimes don't even realize we're doing it. But once we can awaken to that, then we can use this to empower, to move us forward in a way, to say, okay, I have this option in front of me. What am I thinking? I'm thinking life's pretty good right now, or I'm thinking life's pretty hard right now. What am I thinking? And how does that thought drive the feelings and the emotions, the behaviors? I trust you. I trust all of our viewers, right? You get this. We know you get this.
Mm-hmm.
So we come back to that question. How do you want to use it in your life?
Right. Right. And there's a cheeky way of saying it, right? So in that we can't stop thinking, right? Because the brain, right, and the five senses, as we take in these different aspects of the world, we come up with a thought. When I see something, and the moment the image posts in my brain, I'm thinking, what is that? Why is that? What, there's a thought process, a thinking activity that goes on. And then based on taking in all of that information, I come up with a thought. Right? So, and then from there, we get into this whole thing of, by thinking, which is the manipulation of information, it gets narrowed down to an idea / thought. And then from there, we begin to perceive and interact with the world. So I read this book by Anthony DeMello, who was a Jesuit priest in India. And he said, he gave this thing about a little kid walking on the beach, and they see a seagull and they say bird. And so, oh, bird. And so now they tell him the next day bird. And so he see the wings and fluffy and tail. But now the next day he sees an eagle and he says bird. But now that don't quite get it, because the eagle is a bird and the seagull is a bird, but they're quite different. And when we narrow things down and start classifying bird and then miss out on the uniqueness between seagull and eagle and hummingbird, we begin to limit ourselves of changing behavior, because the sooner or later we will dismiss. We'll just see an eagle and say bird. All right, well, I saw one of them. It was a seagull. He was messing around on the beach. No harm to me or my dog or my child. And that's not the case.
Right.
I love this. It's good stuff. You know, we really have to begin to, you know, I love this. I love this saying that says, if you take life casual, you will end up a casualty.
Right.
And that's what happens with a lot of us. We begin to make these associations and we don't think about them, and we create these behaviors because of that. And then we don't like what we're doing, but we don't take we don't take a non-casual approach to say, why do I always find the same partner? No matter how much I think I'm getting something different, I get the same thing, the same job, the same boss, whatever it might be.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You remind me of a story that you use a lot. And that's the one of the pot roast and the pot, cutting the ends off the pot roast. And a young woman asked her grandmother, why do we always cut the ends off the pot roast? Well, that's all what we've always done. That's what we've always done. And we learned later that it's because years back, that was how big the pot was. And we had to cut the ends of the roast to meet the pot size.
Yeah.
We've gotten to a point, folks, where we have a bigger consciousness. We know this stuff now. This isn't some fanciful woo stuff anymore. We're proving this day in and day out. Hang out around this network, around this ministry, will convince you of your greatness, because we know it's there. And we're watching people day by day by day by day use these principles, use these practices in a powerful way. It's truly not rocket science, in my opinion. But it takes a commitment to stay true to the practice.
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of people get lost, is staying true to the practice.
Yeah. So you have to get to, as they used to say, that at some point the rubber has to meet the road, right? I gotta try this stuff out. I have to begin to think about my thoughts. And when I have this thought, what's the feeling? Or when I have this and begin, you know, when you look at unity, right, that's made up of different parts, there are some very thin lines between the separation of one part or the other, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have to hold it in that kind of a container, if you will, that thoughts, feeling, and emotions are very closely related. And so we have to begin to think about them in that idea, because it's hard to separate them, and begin to take notes again. My favorite thing is, where's your science lab book? Why are you writing down or taking count somewhere that I felt mad today? Why?
Right.
Let's unwind it. What I've just had an emotional response. What was I feeling? Oh, I was feeling abandoned. So I had an outburst. And what happened before I had that abandonment feeling? What idea or thought caused me to feel abandoned, so that I begin to scream emotionally? Oh, yep. It was because my dad didn't appreciate me. He always put me down. And so as a result of that, I get mad, boom, 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 whatever it might be. But we have to figure that out. When we do, we can now change the feeling tone behind that by repositioning that thought.
Right. As you were talking about earlier in that other quote, thoughts alone aren't enough.
Right.
I have hundreds of thousands of thoughts every day, right? If every thought we had instantly demonstrated, there might not be a mother-in-law left on the planet. I don't know. Right? It's we have to be. It's got to be a mix, a conglomeration of these, the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions. And even once is not okay. So I've got this thought. Wow. Hey. Oh, I'm excited. That's a great idea. And I'm feeling excited. And I'm excited about it. And I'm going to express that excitement. And it may still not happen. It may
Yes.
happen in a different way. So this isn't none of this is a one and done. And you can't take one out and have the equation be complete. And the equation takes time to demonstrate. We have to be with it. They're self-feeding. And in so many projects, a great thought comes through and but after a while it just doesn't quite feel right, and then the thought changes, or somebody gives me a reason to push a button and I have an emotional outburst around this idea and I come to a greater understanding of it. So without all of this, it don't work.
Right.
It's all necessary to get us to that place where I believe we awaken. You hear me say it all the time, to the life we truly desire.
Yes. Yes. And that, that the life we desire gets tripped up by other people's opinion, or how we feel about other people's opinion,
Opinions.
which ultimately, once again, goes back to a thought or an idea, right? They're pretty much the same thing. A thought is just an idea expressed.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we begin to feel some kind of way. And because I feel some kind of way, I begin to act/emote some kind of way.
Right.
And change your thinking, change your life. If I begin not to worry about as much, it starts there. Or what you think about me, as the thing goes, what you think about me is none of my business.
Exactly. And what I think of you is none of yours.
None of yours.
Right. I it's not my place to go running around telling you what my opinion of you is.
Right.
Or what you can do better, or how you can make your life better, or think your life better. It's always an internal job.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I want to share the feeling wheel here with everybody, Z.
Okay.
We're gonna bring this up. We know you might not be able to see this perfectly, folks, in all of its great and grand glory, and we'll leave a link somewhere for you to access this. And these are available actually all over the internet. You can do a search for feeling wheel, and it'll show you. But this one, it breaks things down in that center circle into some very straightforward: mad, sad, peaceful, powerful, joyful, or scared. And from those six, everything else emerges. From those six, everything else is another deeper experience of that feeling tone. I'm not in recovery or 12-step, and I know that many of those same are very prevalent in that community, right? You never make a decision when you're mad, glad, sad, or horny, is the way I've heard it said.
Yep.
We could fit all of those into those six as well. So we have to tune into every thought we have must go through the filter that is our own feeling body, our own feeling vibration, our feeling tone. And that shifts and changes based on the conditions around us, maybe based on the pull of the moon, whether it's raining outside, whether I've been outside in a while or not. There's a billion different factors that can go into what we label this feeling tone.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fun, I think, though.
Yeah. Well, and that's it, right? Again, when we think about all of the knowledge, or however you want to come up with it, all the stuff that we know or don't know or behave, we didn't come out thinking that way, right? You can have two siblings, you can have two identical twins who have different feelings and emotions about certain things. Now, there's going to be a lot of overlap, right? But internally, how that gets, mom like you better. No, well, dad like you better. You get into these things where feelings pop up because of something that's happening, then you have to assign some kind of meaning to it.
Right.
And if we were in an environment that caused that feeling to be self-destructive or non-helpful or toxic, pick the word that works. Now you begin, and if it happens long enough or often enough, right? The first time somebody tells you you're not pretty, or you're not handsome, or you're not cute, you might be trying to say, well, I don't even know what any of that means. So, right. Okay, great. But the more you begin to associate with these words, and then you see how people behave towards someone who's cute and not, or handsome and not, and they call you one or the other, now you begin to feel some type of way. Mm-hmm. And based on that feeling and the results that someone is giving, you begin to behave in a certain way, right? You either try to do stuff to glamour yourself up, or you begin to have negative reactions towards people who are supposedly cute or handsome.
Right.
And now we got a problem again.
There is the emotional craving for self-expression back of everything. And when we put on our fancy duds and a nice dress or a nice shirt and somebody makes fun of us, or we go out on a limb and put ourselves out on stage and perform with all our heart, and somebody makes fun of us, we get to that point where this desire becomes repressed.
Yep.
And my kid shared with me, my eldest shared a quote that he got from somewhere else, obviously, right? My oppressor cannot be my savior. If we're oppressing ourselves, we cannot be our own savior. We cannot wake up in the morning and say, you are worthless. You're never going to make it anywhere. And then spend the rest of the day moaning and groaning about why nothing ever goes our way. We have to be. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say Einstein said it. You can't solve the problem at the level that it was created.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Yep. We have to change our thinking, or nothing changes. If we go through life with the same old, and again, for many of us, we were programmed before we realized it. Not good enough. Who do you think you are? All that old negativity. That you'll never make it as a singer. You're too tall for this. You're too short for that. You're too this for that. You're too this for that. Whatever that was in your life, right? You created some feelings around it, and in many ways we continue to create emotions and express emotions based on those old limited thinking and those old limited thoughts.
Yeah.
But the beauty is it's as close as that to get rid of those, to change those.
Yeah. And that's what this teaching is all about, is to not be glib about stuff, not just take it for granted, not just accept someone else's word, no matter how trusted, because two people can stand in the rain and have different totally feelings and emotions and behavior as a result of it. And so what this teaching gives us that I love so greatly is the impetus and the opportunity to be observant and to take note of what happens in our observation and see how it applies to us.
Right. Yes. And just as I said earlier, then we have that opportunity to create life as we desire.
Right.
To say enough of this. I don't need any more of that in my life. Or, yes, please, I'd like a whole bunch more of this in my life, because we've learned how to use this energetic vibration, how to funnel this vibration towards the positive, the
and
productive.
when you think about it, now we focused almost the whole time on individual, but also happens collectively. So that's how we come up with the collective unconscious, right? And if we take it back even further, we can look at and begin to kind of map it to Jung's idea of archetypes, right? About images, ideas, and thoughts that are prevalent everywhere, but it's only when we begin to apply some meaning to them based on contextual situations. For a good example I always like is you find a culture, a society that lives in a desert, and they have an idea of God or the creator. For them, a blessing is rain. You go to some place like the Amazon, and stop rain is a blessing for them. And so again, back to that same old thing, it becomes contextual. So that opens up this other can of worm about the relativity of things. This information is relative based on context, because truth is just, it is, and then it gets applied different ways, and how that happens, people may call it good or bad.
Right. And again, your intent, my intent behind what I'm doing. We have free will. That's what makes us all. Otherwise, I think life would be really, really boring. We've said it numerous times, right? Unity is not uniformity. Yes. We have to have this broad range of intentions and beliefs and pre-programmed emotions and spontaneous emotional experiences and the whole gamut of it, so that we each can come to this greater awakening, this greater realization, and break free of the programming. I remember once, I don't know how we got here today, but I'll say it. I remember once in a sharing with another colleague, how I was truly afraid that I would just mess up my kid's life. And yeah, that was the response I kind of got. Like, dude, don't worry about it. You're going to do that no matter what you do, no matter what you try, no matter where you go, no matter how. In the end of the day, somewhere along the lines, one of your kids or both of them are going to be like, dad messed us up, or somebody, right? Because we can only do the best we can. We're learning as we go, but all these folks around us have their own experience. They have their opportunity to make that up differently, and to not look at what I put them through as a suffering or as a detractor, but as an opportunity. And all our friends and families are doing that to us, and we're doing that to our friends and families, and everybody's doing it to everybody. Sometimes I'm amazed we're all still here.
Exactly. And that just speaks so clearly to me to the whole idea of today's presentation of thoughts, feelings, and emotions. We say these kids or these people, whoever they may be, we may present a thought, but then they're going to have their thought about that thought, right?
Right.
And so
exactly,
the best thing we can do as tour guides, as I love that term for spiritual leaders and teachers, is tour guides, is to highlight what's on the path. Yeah. You're going to have thoughts. They're going to create emotions and feelings and behaviors, and people are going to be different about how they see it based on context and content. I'm going to tell you this based on my perspective. I'm doing the best I can, but you need to begin to articulate within your own self how you're feeling about this thought or this emotion or feeling or whatever, so that you can be, a high performance car takes premium. It'll run off regular, but to get the most out of it, you need premium gas because it has less carbon and all that stuff. So take your pick.
Yep. I'm really reminded that This is a philosophy that teaches people how to think,
Yeah.
not what to think.
Yes.
Right, we've all run into philosophies that tell us this is what you have to think and you have to believe exactly this and da 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 da. Now we have our dogma like anybody else. We have our sacred cows. We have our things that all of us, do it this way, don't do it this way, say it this way, don't say it that way. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we don't demand anybody think we don't teach anybody what to think.
Right.
But absolutely want to encourage every one of us to think,
Yes.
and to consider, to be in these places and say, wow, that really, no, I'm not happy with the feeling I'm experiencing right now. What am I thinking about this? How can I express this in a healthy way with someone else to come to an emotional resolution rather than an emotional blow up?
And the beauty of that I've seen is that in our teachings and our philosophy, we have individuals from different backgrounds, Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and various denominations, right? Methodist, Baptist, Catholic, Protestant. Then you have Muslims
Mm-hmm.
and Hindus and Buddhists, because what we are teaching is how to think, and they always, in almost every case, I feel like I'm a better Christian now because I'm thinking for myself. Oh, I feel like I'm a better Buddhist or a Muslim because I got this content that someone told me I had to, didn't make sense. I've developed behaviors and things, but now that I'm beginning to know how to think, I can get a better view of that. I can put it in a different context. And now I feel I'm a better whatever than I was before.
Folks, if we actually put effort and planned how our conversations would go, this would be the place where the show would end. Because that is a perfect, absolutely perfect representation of what I've been taught was Ernest Holmes's original intention behind this thing called the science of mind. Not to create a new religion, not to create a new denomination, not to create a new church, even though all those things have happened. What I've been taught is his original intention was to create a philosophy that was practical, usable, and that people could take into their already existing spiritual lives and spiritual philosophies. And so we can see how the alignment, the oneness between Buddhism and Hinduism and Rosicrucianism and Christianity and Judaism and New Thought and Baha'i and all of it.
Yep.
It's all one thing. It's an amazing amalgamation. I don't like the term, a mixing pot but we could get kind of cheesy and call it a fondue pot of spiritual. I love that joke. Thank you. Of all this richness, and what we find as we go are the threads of truth that never change. They're interpreted differently, but they always work. This formula of thoughts becoming feelings and feelings becoming emotions and emotions becoming behaviors is not new. It's endemic. Every one of these philosophies will teach us that.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess pick one and stick with it, right?
Yeah. Because at least you get some continuity, right? Because inevitably something is going to contradict something, right? If I have something from the Amazon and from the desert in terms of how I practice and worship the creative source, there's going to be some inconsistencies coming up.
Right. In a philosophy in a world based on oneness, which I believe, you believe, I believe, or most people watching this program believe, we have the choice to find the similarities or the differences. Now, I equate looking for the differences like pulling on a thread on a rug. You're going to be pulling threads for a long, long time, and it's never going to end. And at the end of the day, you're going to find out that you don't have a rug, and it was all just one rug to begin with. When we look for the similarities, we start to find the places where the divine, where the ultimate truth cannot help but express itself.
Yes.
In a lot of ways, that's what this network's about, right? Giving people the place to express that authenticity so we can create a whole new tapestry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always based on what's going right. How can we support? How do I help this or move that needle or support this versus the, oh, that's wrong. That's not going to happen. That's what oh no.
And I love that because it put this idea into when you spoke about the true nature of thing, the true essence of a thing will always come through, right? And so I think about when I walk and I see a flower coming up through a crack in the concrete, not the seam of the concrete, but in the middle of the concrete, there's a crack and it's coming up through the crack because even though that concrete is on top of it, it's persistent and its nature has found a way to be itself, regardless of what was put on top of it.
Right. I got to find out where to go. The irresistible impulsion to express life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes. And this whole idea of thought, feeling, and emotions anchored or manifested in a behavior is what we're talking about here. There is an essence in that plant that, based on its unadulterated feelings, thoughts, emotions, if you want to go there with a plant, has definitely staked a claim to say, I will express myself, regardless of the circumstances.
Mm-hmm. I saw a meme recently. It's a tree sticking up through a boulder, and the caption was, "This is how paper beats rock."
Yes.
So I think we should leave it there, folks.
Yeah.
This is how paper beats rock. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, they lead to our behaviors. We want to thank you for being with us. We'll be back again next week. And we've got a special guest with us next week. Yes, C?
Yes, yes. The Right Reverend Raymond Anderson will be with us. Dr. Raymond Anderson.
Dr. Reverend Raymond Anderson. He's got more titles in front of his name than I want, that's for sure. But a divine mind in the mind of the one, and a great colleague and a great voice for what we both believe is a vision of New Thought moving forward in the world. So we want to thank you for being with us, folks. This is New Thought Media Network. We'll be back again next Tuesday. Hey, if you're a member of our committed giving program, thank you so much for being a part of that. Your donations mean an awful lot. If you'd like to learn more about how you can be a financial supporter of this network, please jump on over to our website, ntmedia.org, and you can learn a whole lot more. You're also welcome to send an email, info@ntmedia.org. We'll get you more information on that as well. So, Z, before we go, any final thoughts today?
Hey, check your thoughts. Look at your behaviors and determine what you're feeling and emoting when that thing happens.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks, feel the emotions. I love it. We're going to get out of here for now. We'll be back next week. Until then, please go out there, make it a great day, be a great part of this thing called life. And here's the movie we're looking for. Till then, peace.
Peace.
New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring tunes. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Listen anytime at ntmedia.org. New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.